will call to order the Monday, May 14th meeting of the Albany Arts Committee. The first item on the agenda is approval of the action minutes from the April meeting. Is there any discussion from folks who are at that meeting?
Nope.
Any motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes from the April meeting.
I second that.
All right, in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. And does anybody want to address the committee on any item that's not on our agenda? That's you? Do you?
Oh, you're number 6.
Oh, you've got something. You're on the agenda, so there's nobody not on the agenda. Okay. We'll move on to announcements from committee members, and I will start. We have a new member, Susan Moffett, appointed by Councilmember Nason. And I think we've actually heard some of the cool stuff that Susan's up to. You were here to talk to us, right? You're involved with the Albany Bulb, right? And so did you have anything else you want to say? I mean, welcome. We're thrilled to have you here.
I'm honored to serve, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Great. Any other announcements from committee members? No. Announcements from staff?
Yeah, just one. I wanted to mention that we are partnering with the Film Festival as well as the library tomorrow night to show a Nickelodeon documentary about an all-girls basketball team on their quest for the national championship, and it's a prelude to our Sunday event, which is Play Like a Girl, which is promoting girls in sports. We'll have 20 different sports at Memorial Park, and girls ages 2 to 17 can come and try everything from skateboarding to fencing to steer roping. That's not a joke. We'll have steer roping there, you know. And so tomorrow night, 6:30, Little Ballers, Indiana is what it's called. So,
And is it at the library?
oh, sorry, it's at the community center.
Okay.
Yeah, yep, and it's free.
All right.
Were you also going to mention the art walk?
No.
I don't have anything. You'll have to do it. Maybe Robbie can do it.
Oh, okay. Great. All right, and that does bring us to item 6.1, Albany Arts Events, and Robbie Abrams from Abrams Cleghorn Gallery is going to present on upcoming events and partnerships, possible partnerships. Yeah.
Good morning. I'm so nervous in front of all these people. So I was going to talk about 2 upcoming events, but one event already happened. It happened last weekend, but I was a little confused on the date for this meeting. So we had our Mother's Day pop-up event in which my business, Abrams Cleghorn Gallery, partnered with Morning Tide and recruited 20 or so local vendors and businesses to use the empty lot next to my building to have an arts festival of sorts. And I plan to do this at least 3 times a year while it's sunny. We were lucky that the wind stayed low because there was some fear about the tents, but it was a very successful event, and I think that was in part because of the timing with the garage sale day, and people were out looking for stuff. But I think about 200 people at least attended the event. And I think that was a benefit not only to me, but even the deli across the street and Uri, the restaurant next to my place, as well as places up and down the street. And as part of this event, we also put together a flyer for businesses that could not be part of it directly, so that we handed out about 150 of these flyers that directed people to other places, restaurants, the flower shop, so Stoll Framing, Fern's Garden, La Crema, et cetera, all gave me $20. I put together this little flyer, and it went out to everybody with a map. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about in the future. And I'm still not quite 100% clear as to how the Arts Committee can work with me, is allowed to work with me, and what your capabilities are. But I'm going to be doing this at least twice more. Once probably in July. Last year we did July and October, and those both worked well. And these arts festivals seem to be very popular, and a lot of people sought me out during the event to thank me for doing this because they think it brings something to the neighborhood, and they're excited about that. So I don't know how you can help me, but I'm certainly looking forward to hearing ways that the city or the Arts Committee can work with me to help promote or maybe make this a larger event, not just in my one spot. And which is my now segue to the upcoming Art Walk. The Solano Avenue Association has formed essentially a subcommittee where we're working with members of the Solano Avenue BID, the Berkeley Business Improvement District, and we decided to have an art and wine walk, except the wine part is a little bit more difficult to get permits for. So we decided this year just to do the art walk. And we recruited any business on Solano Avenue. You do not have to be an arts-oriented business. And if they don't have art as part of their business, for example, I think it's Allstate Insurance up at the top of Solano, now, it came to me, I have to find artists to put into these locations that don't have artists or art normally displayed. But several businesses have art shows already planned, so Styx Framing and Nielsen Arts, maybe Art Thou. The Ivy Room wants to be part of this, and so I'm finding them artists, and Britt Marie's will also be part of this, as well as probably, I think, 10 to 15 more businesses. And apparently the way to get their attention is to not send them an email, but to actually walk in their door and talk to them. Everybody ignored the emails, but they didn't ignore that. So that's coming up on June 2nd, which also is coinciding with East Bay Open Studios. That's the first day of East Bay Open Studios. And so I'm hoping that will help stir up some excitement about this. I'm also hosting a pop-up event at La Crema at the same time, where we have about 8 artists, and they have that empty space right there on San Pablo. And she has graciously offered that to me as a place where I can do art events whenever I want, until she can figure out staffing to be able to expand her restaurant into that extra space, because right now, all of us, and maybe we can use some help on that, are having trouble keeping staff. It's just, we're getting outbid by other entities, and in a good economy, it's harder to keep staff, even when I'm paying them $20 an hour to do retail. So that's a little side note. But anyway, so that's pretty much all I have to say. Art Walk is coming up, and we want to do more of these arts festivals, maybe in conjunction with Arts and Green, I'm not sure.
Is this artwork, it's a particular day, but are the artists going to be displaying their works for a more extended period of time?
That depends on the venue. I believe, at Styx Framing, at Nielsen Arts and Art Thou and so on, yes, they will be, and they're certainly welcome to. But for some of them, the artists will, the artwork will only be there for the 3 hours of the art walk from 4 to 7. And that does just depend on the venue. We've asked them all to have the artist present. That's part of the, suggested, not quite a requirement, but strongly suggested that the artist be there to help incent people to want to go, not just to see some art stuck up on the wall or on easels or on pedestals, but to actually meet the artist. Maybe they'll want to keep it up longer. Maybe it'll be a thing where more places on the street show art, which is another one of my projects, which is I find places like Grove Salon, and I change out the art there every 6 weeks or so. And we may even have a reception towards the end of June for the art show that's up in Grove Salon.
Have you talked at all with the AP students at the high school? Are they involved in this at all? I'm just wondering about ways to get the word out, and the school district has all these channels of communication.
Well, currently the show in my gallery is the AP students.
Oh, you have this AP kids there now?
Yes,
Okay, cool.
every year, this is our 4th annual. The first year we didn't jury it, but every year since we have juried. They submit, images of their work, and then we have a jury that selects. This year we had about 100 more than we did last year, 160, 170 some odd entries. We pared that down to 41 pieces and 31 students. And then local businesses, Closet Karma, Oaktown Spice, St. Albans, Golden Poppy Hair Salon, and a few others donated very generous prizes. We selected, best photograph, best in show, and so on and so on. So, yeah, we have them in there, but unfortunately, that show comes down, I think, the day before,
Oh, okay.
And we will be in between shows in my own space. Although we are painting a mural on the front of the building, and we'll be live painting that during the art walk.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, the high school, the problem with June is that they're almost done, and so they're not really around. But definitely, maybe I can,
They're just a
Stay a
good,
little
like if
longer.
there's any connection, they're a good way to get the word out because a lot of parents in Albany are on those e-trees they use and
oh, I
that
see.
sort of thing.
Okay. I will talk to their instructor and see what we can do.
Based on the most recent event in the lot, and now you're planning for the art walk, what ideally would you like, or what support would you seek from the city, from the arts committee, et cetera?
I think the most important thing is just, help getting the word out. I think, that's, this particular thing is going to be very low in cost to produce. I think some of it is coming from the bid or is just donated. We're getting a graphic designer for free from one of the people involved in this whole thing. But it's just getting the word out, however, whatever mechanisms you have, maybe through the rec center and the library and whatever mailing lists that you have. Because part of it is, and this is, we decided to do this with very little time, and we felt that we wanted to do it June 2nd, because then the town gets very quiet after that for the summer. So we wanted to do it June 2nd, and so any help that you guys can give us in getting the word out, I should have some sort of poster or something out by Tuesday. So if I could forward that to you, that'd be great.
So, but the city is not formally helping you in any.
As far as I know, no. No, this is basically Solano Avenue Association, and with a little bit of help from members of the bid.
Eva, how does that work with the channels that we have? I mean, if the Arts Committee wants to promote things through the city's Facebook and things like that, how do we do that?
So typically, we reserve, our line in the sand is city-sponsored events. But something like this, I shared the event on our recreation page. That's just such a wonderful gift to the city that we definitely are willing to do that. We just have to be a little bit careful because it's not a city-sponsored event. So, but yeah, we did share it on our Facebook page, and that has 1,600 people who view it or like us. Yeah. But we couldn't put it like if you subscribe to the city e-newsletter, so that has to be a city-sponsored event too. But I think these are, everyone here on the diocese is very connected to artists, and so even just personally, if you wanted to reach out to your communities, that would be absolutely fine.
So
Since I'm new, I have a question about that publicity question. So recently, I think there was an Irish dance event. Was that city-sponsored, or?
Yeah, so we do an At the Center event every third Friday of the month, and it's at the community center. So that was one of the our At the Center events, but it happened to be partnering with a local dancer. She did it last year as well, and she teaches lessons, and so it was kind of a win-win in that sense. So.
And then does the city provide financial support for that, or just publicity, or the space for free?
Yes and yes. So we do it at the center, so at the hall, and then she charged I think it was suggested cover fee, and so we split that with her. I don't remember the percentage, but and then we did then advertise it because it was our event, and then she also advertised it as well. Yeah.
There's been discussion on the committee of someone looking for opportunities to expand the definition of art beyond simply visual art or what people conventionally think of as, say, public art, sculpture, painting, that sort of thing. So getting into more of the nature of performance or ephemeral events that are just there. So if there was some occasion, not this time around, or maybe in the next time, but in the future, if there was some way of say, using some of the public space at the same time that the art walk was going on for something that was kind of an artistic performance tie-in, so that it would be an event that would attract people, but because it'd be in a public space, the city might be called upon to issue a permit or require a permit. So in that sense, if the Arts Committee were involved, it would make that kind of thing easier, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. I suggested to Oaktown Spice, who wants an artist for this event, that maybe they expand it to culinary arts. And we did get an email from a martial arts school that said, we will be part of the art walk and do martial arts,
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
which is cute. But yeah, I like that idea, maybe some performance in some sort of space.
Just out of curiosity, would there be any interest or benefit in the long term to connecting some of the art and events on the bulb to an art walk on Solano as like an art in Albany thing? Or
In general principle, I think that would be great, pulling, how to tie them together, because they're not walkable.
Right.
Is a little more challenging.
okay,
But I'm brand new on the board of the Solano Avenue Association, and one thing that I would love to see is something similar to the Emery Go-Round in Albany. And then if we had that, we could definitely, maybe tie that to the bulb and, have art tours or something like that.
And we've gone out to the bulb on our Bike About Town, which is a little bit more accessible when you're on a bike. So the fourth Friday of the month, May through September, we have a Bike About Town, and the bulb is always on there too. So we do a head out there.
I think following up on what Peter was saying about performance and performance art, I think, kind of plugging into social practice art and art where the interaction of people is the art itself could be really interesting. And so that, I think it could work really well on Solano Avenue, to ask an artist if it's an insurance company to do something to do with risk. Or, I think that there are a lot of opportunities there for spices and where they come from. I think if artists who do that kind of work are invited in to interact with the public, that it could be really interesting. And I think, as Peter said, anything that would require city permits or, permit fees, it would be nice to collaborate so that you can avoid, to smooth that process out.
Yeah, the price tag on those permits is, feels to me, because I've paid it once, it feels to me like they don't want to have events, because they charged me close to $500 or so to have a fundraiser for Albany High School.
We'll just give them the
Just give them the money.
$500, yeah.
And so we had to get a grant from another organization. to-
Earthquake, yeah.
It's silly,
Oh, stupid.
yeah. But that's history, I'm not going to go back to that. But I think that's a great idea, and I say for future art walks, if we could do it, plan it so far in advance that the artist could actually prepare artwork to fit into each of those, so the Spice Shop gets something about that, and the insurance company, and so on, and maybe even some performance art for down at the Ivy Room, which will be part of this walk as well.
Do you have your next dates picked out?
Pardon?
Do you have the next dates
No, we
picked out?
don't. We're imagining that the Art and Wine Walk will be in a year, but I would like to do, and I think I want to talk to Patrick at Nielsen Framing, because he likes doing this as well. I mean, he likes organizing these things, is to try to do it even quarterly. I don't want to do it monthly like Art Murmur in Oakland. That's too much, and I don't want to be anything like that. But to do it quarterly would be nice. It's similar, actually, Gilman. Gilman, the Gilman District is doing a quarterly art walk themselves, and that's, I think, Sunday afternoons or something like that. And that's been very successful, and I might want to copy that on a different day of the week.
I had sent Shelley Putzer a suggestion of doing a pedestrian paradise on Lower Solano, the way that they close off the street during the Dinner with Albany, to do that on a, not even monthly basis, but as you were saying, a quarterly basis, just close off those blocks there, right, well, right in front of your gallery, actually.
I wouldn't
So
mind that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there was a lot of stuff going there, that you'd get a lot of people coming out from the neighborhoods.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing, is just getting more people, to the street in general. It's sort of, it becomes the matter of life and death of the businesses, how many people come to the street. And we're doing a very good job of bringing people from Richmond and El Cerrito to the street, and not me, But most of my customers, that's where they come from. I would like to see more from closer somehow, and I don't know what's that trick.
And have you had conversation at all with the Economic Development Committee?
No, I haven't.
Because this sort of thing that we would, I mean, obviously take up the art subcommittee, and they've got a subcommittee to look at ways that art can be used to promote commerce in the city. This is kind of an obvious fit.
Yeah, I think
Does,
so.
does the city have a policy on permits around art? I'm just wondering if there's any policy question here in terms of recommendations about ways to streamline or waive fees for, arts events that, especially ones that promote, economic development.
Well, if it's a city-sponsored event, my impression is someone from, like a city staff person basically has to, I assume there's some paperwork involved, but it doesn't seem to be a long bureaucratic process. But if someone, say if Robbie were coming in from the outside and trying to get a permit, I think it'd be a lot more complicated. And I don't think there's any streamlined setup for art-related as opposed to anything else.
What is the process? If there's a fee, is there a process, Eva, for waiving that fee, for requesting that? Like, could this committee, if we, in our opinion, thought that an event, for example, was, strongly supporting our mission to support arts in Albany, can we recommend to city council or to somebody that a fee would be waived for something? How does that process work?
I can definitely look into that. I'm not aware off right now, but what I keep thinking in the back of my head is that with the PAPP, if this is something that's going to be ongoing, and that whether it's the subcommittee or the arts committee that really wants to get behind it financially, that we can dedicate, like the haiku, an annual amount that would support it as well. Yeah, and then that could go to fees, permit fees, or the event itself too. Yeah, just an idea.
Just as a point of information, in case it's helpful, at the Bulb, I applied to the Planning Commission for a permit to do events, and we were granted a 3-year permit, and the process from that was then to go to City Council to apply for a waiver of fees,
Okay.
which they approved. So, that's one kind of process, but, I think if there are places where this committee can weigh in about, the best way to manage that, it might be helpful.
The other thing I was just going to say is that I know where I work in San Rafael, we've been granted this cultural arts district status by the state, and there is money that has come with that. And that program through the Arts Council is entirely about public-private partnership. That's what the program's about. It's about, areas that are building up their cultural arts successfully through these kind of partnerships. So it's something to keep an eye on, because there's marketing money and money that comes with that we're all able to share, basically, to promote our district and to get exactly what you brought up, to get more people there, because that's what really benefits all of us. That's what we all want in downtown San Rafael. It's more people. So that's, something to think about, is to look for those longer term opportunities too.
A parallel question since you're here. I think this Saturday is the culminating event for the Oakland Mural Fest, and I think you mentioned you're going to be doing a live mural during the Art Walk.
I don't know the dates of that. I've heard of it, but I'm not aware of it.
I'm just curious, because we've also discussed trying to put more murals in Albany or on Solano, what type of scope or potential there might be for that. Just off the top of your head, any advice, thoughts, what might work, what wouldn't work, models?
Well, one thing is that thankfully the city of Albany is very easy, as far as the murals. When I did the mural on the side of my building, I asked if I needed a permit, and they said as long as it doesn't have any words in it, and I'm not sure, how they arrived at that, but I went with it. There's no words in it, and I put it up, and everyone loves it. This mural we're planning, also no words. So-
It's not a sign, so it's not advertising. so
Exactly.
Different thing.
But it is advertising, but don't tell them.
No, they don't know that.
But I do know that people seem to like murals, and it seems to, for the most part, prevent graffiti. Not always. I saw a graffitied mural somewhere, maybe in San Francisco recently, but You know, I think it livens up the place. I was looking at the front of my building and saying, this is so boring. And-
So do you have a bunch of artists that you know that might be interested in working with the city to,
Oh, yeah.
and approaching businesses to
I
put
know-
up murals?
I know a number of artists that make their living doing murals. A woman who works for me, you know, works part-time helping a mosaic artist who essentially is doing murals, you know, in mosaic. And then two just, you know, regular painting muralists, one who I've hired for my project. So, yeah, I think, you know, and I think that my knowledge of that is fairly limited. I think there's a lot of people out there who can or want to. The reason I went with this woman is she has experience on a scaffold, and I like her art. And I just, you know, those are two important things. But I should look into this Oakland thing. It would be nice maybe to somehow tie to that or bounce off of that.
Well, as Eva said, what we definitely can do in the short term, since this event is really soon, is, you know, talk it up in our private networks and make sure we try to help you get as many people there as you can. And, you know, continue talking about these, you know, opportunities to work on some of these other ideas in the longer term. It's really terrific. I'm excited about what you're doing. Thank you so much for telling us about it.
Is there a Facebook page, Robbie?
There
for-
is actually, so Patrick from Nielsen Framing actually started a Solano Art Walk page a while back, and he just made me an administrator on that. So far I've just I just posted save the date, but after tomorrow I will have the full list of businesses and hopefully of artists that go along with that to post on there. And then we'll have postcards, and we'll be doing hopefully posters in the windows and balloons out front of the businesses
Right.
on the day of. And one thing that I'm toying with is because we have the Ivy Room, she's very excited about making that a better business than it was. Apparently, they've only owned it for 2.5 years. So have that as sort of the after party. So maybe start up at the top of Solano and then work our way down and finish up there. Britt Marie's will also be part of it, so that could be the place for people who don't want to walk as far.
The after party for the lazy people. Excellent. Excellent.
And Robbie, if you send that information to me, I can send it out to the whole committee too, so we all have the information to share.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
I'll get everything to everybody as soon as I have about 1,500 emails at the moment that I have to sort through, and hey, he wants this, and he's doing this, and so on. And hopefully tomorrow morning I can just smooth that all out on a spreadsheet and send it over to you and to everyone here, and so on.
Great.
Okay,
Excellent. Thank you so much.
thank you, guys. Thanks for your work.
Thank you.
All right. Unfinished business, item 7.1, community projects, RFP. Staff will update the committee.
So I wanted to put this on the agenda for this week as well, and just kind of check in with everyone. At this point, we haven't gotten any proposals. So I wanted to just check in and kind of see if there is places that you guys have reached out to, that you're expecting any applications, if we can give everyone homework for, the deadline for this one is June 28th, so we do have a little over a month. There is time. Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of put that on there. We did have since we last met, we did have our community meeting. That was last month, and we had Carol Fitzgerald, I remembered her name, attend, and unfortunately her event, which most of us I think do know about it, the budget is well over $10,000, so it didn't fit into this RFP process, but she is hoping to come to the November meeting and share that project with everyone, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've put the RFP out when it came to everybody that I know to put it out to. I'm not sure, I think has to do with if there are groups of community members who have been thinking about a project like this. Is that the same person who came to the meeting to talk about the mural project, or is that a different person?
I believe it's the same.
Okay.
Do you guys remember?
It was up on Albany Hill, the
Yeah.
project up there with
By the stairs.
different
Flowers.
Yeah.
Oh, the flowers
Yep,
project,
the native
okay.
plants.
Oh, so it's more than 10,000?
Yeah, yeah. I believe that was the number, yeah, 18,000.
Have any of
What
the
project was that?
That was Carol Fitzgerald. So she had a project that she came to the community meeting for the community projects, but it was over budget, so it didn't fit into this process. But we do have a process for over $10,000 that we were talking about before that. So in November, she'll come to the meeting and propose her project. at
But
that
it was a
time.
planting project.
No, it was a mural of native plants. Yeah.
Are any of the, I guess, local community groups aware of the call or maybe been explicitly notified in the sense maybe, they would like to see their cause artified in some way in, one of the local areas? And
Like
I don't
who?
know, these are just kind of random, but strollers and rollers, it might sound crazy, even the Little League might have an art project or art thing. The people who clean up Solano every morning, et cetera.
That's the Solano Avenue Association.
Okay, so
the blue
already
glove
probably
group. Yeah.
accounted for,
Yeah.
but they might be more motivated or in some way ingrained to put something together on the behalf of a group.
We would have to actually go out and probably sell it to them.
Okay.
And that may be, it may be that we don't get applications or applications that we want to fund in this cycle, and maybe that is what we have to do. It may be that we kind of created the process for it because at some point in the past there had been some demand for it and there was no process in place to address that demand, I think was my understanding. So maybe now we have to go out there and say, okay, we did this thing, make the tour of, I don't know, different club meetings and different community groups and let people know that there is this possibility, because there certainly are, as Susan was saying, there are artists who could work with community groups to do things in their neighborhoods. I think it's kind of connecting the people who might be I would organize one of these projects with the idea that there might be some money available with the artists who, could do them. So it may take a while before people, the city has these avenues of communication, but they're not real, like 1,600 Facebook followers is not a lot of Facebook followers. So I think it's just how you get the word out to people.
And we do, and it's gone on Nextdoor too, to all, we're able to post to every neighborhood as well too, but you're right. And we do that for a lot of our events, and we promote it everywhere, and people still say, I never heard about it. So yes, I think we need to go a lot of different avenues too.
And so the reason it's set at 10,000 total project budget limit is because,
And that's what we were talking about before, as far as the master plan, that it's really not just the Arts Committee, but the city. It's identified as an amount or threshold that over $10,000 is a whole nother process that's a little bit more arduous. So the committee set it at $9,999 and under, just to simplify and hopefully just get more art up in Albany quicker and not have to go through that step.
and
all
is
those extra steps.
that a legal constraint?
No.
Or just a
It's a
policy?
constraint in the master plan.
In
It's
the
a
arts
it's-
master plan,
Yeah,
yeah.
so the arts, it's kind of the limit, it's not kind of, it is the number at which the arts master plan basically defines like a major project. And so then you have to have a selection panel, and it has to be selected in a certain way, and it has to follow, So the idea was to create a small grants program essentially where you could get your grant from this body. The council ultimately has to approve our recommendations, but we could recommend, yes, this is good, this meets the definitions, we think that this should get $4,000 or whatever, towards the achievement of this plan without having to go through the longer process. And the $10,000 number is the number in the master plan that triggers that process, so you can't go around that. You would need then to follow that process.
Right.
Or
And-
change the master plan.
Or edit the master plan, which is what I was saying, that number may not be the right number anymore. The master plan is
It's
wow.
like 10 years old.
Yeah, it's not new.
Yeah. And I think also the notion that, that the threshold should be for the total project budget is a problem, just because what's really valuable is when the city can do matching funds. So when artists are applying for other grants, having, having money from the city that, that could certainly be capped at 10,000 or whatever the cap is in terms of what the city wants to spend, but then allowing a larger project budget is,
But it would have to be across the master plan. And that would also affect, for example, private projects are subject to that exact same thing. If you're doing one of these projects that's associated with a building project, that $10,000 number, I'm pretty sure, is also in that section of the master plan. So if your project is over a certain amount, there has to be a larger group of people who decide. It's just the process is different for those different amounts. I'm definitely not convinced that's the right number, but in the master plan, that's the number. So we would have to make this process different if we were gonna go with a bigger number.
yeah.
Well, and one of the things we could look at while we're doing that is, if we only got one proposal, is that because the number, $10,000, was too low? Was that because our proposal is long and sounds arduous and people are confused by it? Is it because people didn't know about it? So I think before, say, the council would allow us to adjust the floor, we would have to have some kind of,
And it's not to say that artists can't propose a bigger project. That's why we kind of put this November meeting together, so that you could come and say, well, I think I've got a really great $50,000 project, and I think that the Art and Public Places Fund could put X amount in, and then I could apply for a grant for this amount, and this would be a wonderful project. The idea of this program was specifically smaller projects where somebody might say, well, if I could get, a few $1,000s, I could do this, but, still.
Well, and that's a good point, is that we haven't set aside any money in the public, or in the PAPP for this project. And that's, I think, why we identified November as a good time for them to come pitch their project, so that if it is a project that the Arts Committee wants to get behind, then that's when they can put it in the PAPP for the future.
Right.
And this is for visual art, is that right?
Yes.
It
at this
is,
point.
because that's, again, what the master plan defines. But we're not limited to spending the APP money on visual art. There's nothing that says we can only spend it on what the master plan, right?
I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that.
Well, I mean, we spent it
Yeah.
on haiku. That's not visual
Yeah,
art.
that's true.
That is true.
I don't think we're restricted to only spending money out of that fund on, but although in the bigger process, we kind of would be, because the process is defined in the master plan, and the master plan defines public art like as visual art. So it's kind of an interesting question. I mean, I think, the master plan definitely is the master plan for, like I said, a very traditional definition of public art. And it's old, so.
well, it might be one, maybe not this year, but maybe next year, is to take a look at the master plan and see about updating its budget and its procedures and its definitions.
Okay. 7.2 sculpture loan program. Staff's going to update us on this one now.
Yeah. So similar. Just kind of checking in to see if there's other ideas as far as where to market. The city has their set list of places that we reach out. I did a big Google search, if you will, and sent both out to a lot of different local museums and galleries and whatnot. But I'm limited in my artist outreach. But we did put it out, both of them. We do have one application for this. It's very nice, and I think it would be a great addition to Albany. So that will come to the next meeting, because the deadline is June 1st. But I did want to also check in with you for both of these, the RFP and the sculptural loan, that both of them do have a deadline that was set just 3 months after it opened. But check in and see if there's any reason why it does have to close, and why it can't just be rolling for both of these projects. My thought, at least with the sculpture loan, is if you have a sculpture that's in a gallery that's going to be available in June, you want to line something up in June, to another place, so you don't have to store it for 6 months until Albany's open again.
That especially makes sense for the sculpture loan program. I think for a grant program, I don't know, a rolling deadline is unusual, but I guess it could be. You know, if you don't have a lot of applicants, you won't have a lot of complaints, so. Okay, anything else on that? 7.3 Economic Development Subcommittee. Jenny's not here. It looks Peter and Brandon will update us on the Economic Subcommittee. Update away.
So I wasn't here last meeting. Was there?
We didn't have any meetings since last time.
All right.
I have nothing to say.
What,
My
what,
goodness.
Unusually, I have nothing to say.
and curious, I mean, you had mentioned Robbie's endeavors fit nicely into the
It does,
subcommittee.
yeah, they do,
and
yeah.
It seems like when talking about low-hanging fruit, that seems like a great one that he's up and away doing it and promoting art and businesses. And so what are your ideas? Is there any, what are your thoughts as far as partnering or supporting?
Well, I think at our next subcommittee meeting, we should mention this. Maybe if Robbie could come and talk to everybody. It just fits in so perfectly with what they're trying to do, and he's already in touch with all the businesses, so he's got them all inclined to think that way. I mean, it pretty much repeating the same discussion we had here tonight and figuring out how the city can be supportive to what he's trying to do, particularly if he's going to be if he's got a lot of the ideas and a lot of the connections and is doing a lot of the legwork. We can just make it easier for him to do what he's trying to do.
I have a question which sort of fits under, I'm sure it fits under economic development. Has Albany ever done, this just seems to come up again and again with all of these projects, how do we get people to go to these things? And has Albany ever done any kind of survey of Albany residents? Where do people get their information? Where do they find out? How do they decide what they're going to do for the weekend? I mean, that seems like it might be useful because I feel like we do have this conversation a lot.
No, not that I know of, but it is interesting to whether we create it or get an outside company to really do a professional survey of residents.
I'm sure the city would be very interested in that because they're trying all these different things. I get their email every Friday. Going back to this Economic Development Subcommittee, if we don't have another meeting scheduled yet, do we? But when we do that, why don't we make a point of seeing if Robbie would come, and then we can kick around some ideas, some further ideas, and maybe push this along.
Is that something we can proactively do, or do we need to wait? I mean, can we reach out to them through you and say, hey, can we meet in June with Robbie and explore what we talked about, talk to his ideas, or how does the next meeting process work, I guess, formally?
Yeah, and last time, my memory is that we kind of left it up to you guys as far as when do you want to meet again. And Claire, I talked to her before this meeting, was checking to see if you can meet, if we have to meet here, or if you can meet at Fonda, or what the rules.
Drinks.
Yeah, right. So what the rules are in regards to that too. So
Marie is always up.
or Britt Marie, or yes, you're not tied to Fonda. But I hear that you're saying meeting sometime in June, and I can find out again what the rules are behind
Yeah, I
where
think
to
if we
meet.
can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I wonder in terms of discussions with the Economic Development Committee, and again, I don't know if this is the right place to mention it, but given that there's no local newspaper, it's a real challenge, I can say, as somebody who, I organize events once or twice a month. And I get people from Marin County and San Francisco and all over the place, and people in Albany don't know that these events are happening because there's no place to advertise in Albany, and it's not an official city event, so it's hard to get the word out. And then also, there are special interest Facebook groups in Albany, so sometimes I'll post something on Albany Community Action or Familias Latinas or whatever, or the listserv for Albany Strollers and Rollers, but each of those listservs or Facebook groups is trying to stay on topic, right? And so there's no general catch-all place, and I'm just wondering, maybe it's not the role of the city, or it would be nice if there was just somewhere that anybody could post what's going on, whether it's an arts group or Albany activities group.
I think Nextdoor is kind of designed to do that. I don't know if people actually scroll
And
down.
I'm not
the
actually
web.
on Nextdoor, so,
Not?
no.
Oh. Well, there is a Nextdoor for your neighborhood, and then you can either post for your immediate neighborhood or for a much wider area. Problem is that it's not particularly well organized, so you're never really going to be sure if people see it or not. There's not a really good way of calling attention to what you're doing.
I
But
would-
it is
oh,
there.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you. I was wondering about, with the website, a couple meetings ago, there was a conversation about whether there could be some type of arts calendar or arts. I would say it's not, within our scope of what we're supposed to do to help promote any event happening in Albany, but it's certainly within our scope to promote the arts in Albany. It's like half of what we're supposed to be doing. So, like, is our section of the website a place where an arts calendar could live? Is that even feasible in the city's website? I don't know.
Yeah, and I remember the conversation too, and it kind of became a slippery slope of, well, what is art, and do we put something that La Crema is doing it there, can anyone do it? And what we kind of came to is the Chamber of Commerce, is that's really their job too, or Solano Avenue Association does a great job of it as well, but the city's, like we said, that is kind of tied to the city-sponsored events, but the chamber really can bring in everyone in Albany.
And do they have a calendar? Do they have an arts?
They have a calendar, but they don't have an arts aspect of their website. But it is a nice website. It's everythingalbany.com, and I know that they've been slowly trying to get it up and running. But it would be an interesting idea to pitch that they would have an arts component and have people could post, like you post a calendar listing is how I'm imagining it. So I have an art event and I click the art box and it goes under the art category or something.
Well, and often if the way those websites run, there's often a tag link. So in other words, you could usually link to the selection already, you know what I'm saying? You could link to as though you went there and selected art. Couldn't the arts committee send people to something like that? Would that be, I'm wondering, like, how do people get their information? Because we don't have a newspaper and we're small, and so where are people looking and how can we, tap into that to promote these ideas more?
And it used to be the Patch, I feel like, but it's not
used to be.
anymore.
Well, when Emily was here, yeah.
I know,
Yes.
right?
She's long gone, unfortunately.
There's the kiosk, I know, at Curtis and Solano, and there are a couple other places where notices are posted.
Outside of Sunny.
I walk past
Sunnyside
that
Up.
kiosk every day and look at it maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So I'm not sure that something like that is so useful. It's a combination of things, I suppose, actual notices plus stuff online, plus word of mouth, et cetera.
And I always use the example of, there's a trail by my house. I live in Oakland, and they have a number up there that to be involved, and I walk my dog probably, 1,000 times up there, and I've never called that number, so how many times do you have to see something to actually, I really want to.
At least 1,000.
1,001, maybe.
Okay. 7-4, Albany Film Fest update.
Well, again, I have nothing to say. We were supposed to have our post-mortem, but everyone's schedule exploded at the last minute, so we are trying to reschedule for sometime the end of May or early June. And once we have that, I'll come back with a report.
All right. 7-5, Community Center Foyer Gallery update.
I always have something to say, as you know. We had a really nice opening last month. Nicole Rubio, who was just absolutely delighted with her opening, and to her great shock and amazement, a couple came in and they bought a picture. She was so excited. She just wasn't expecting that at all. So she was very pleased with us. And I have to say, the staff was truly wonderful to her. She is going blind, and she was very insecure about the whole thing, and she said the staff was absolutely fabulous. So I cannot thank you guys enough. Yeah, which is terrific. So it went very well, and she's a happy camper. And she keeps bringing you more of those things. I keep writing her, and she keeps saying, "Oh, no, I want to do them." She's got, if you've been in the gallery, there's a, by her bio, there is it's not exactly a tray, but it's attached to the wall, and it's got information, and it's cut in a costume kind of thing, and it gives information about her book and all of this kind of stuff. And people keep taking them, and she's very delighted, and she's hoping it's all little girls who are taking, all that kind of good stuff. She's very, very pleased. So that's gone very well. Our next show is July 9th, is when it opens, and the reception is July 10th from 4 to 6, as always, on a Sunday. Jessica Olip Booth is her name, and Peter is working on her card as we speak.
Yeah, probably have it by our next meeting.
By our
We don't
next-
have a meeting in July, right?
No, we do not have a meeting in July. We don't have a meeting in August, we have a meeting in July, but her opening is on the 9th of July. So
We skip August.
So we
skip
do have the
August.
meeting in July.
So
we
will have
meet
a
in
meeting
July, but we do not have a meeting in August. And our meeting in July will probably be after, I don't know the actual date.
And do we meet in June?
Yes, we do meet in June. Yeah, whatever. That's pretty much it, except it is getting that time of year again, where I have to tell everybody, we need applications for, oh, good girl, because I had just realized I left mine in the car. I was going to bring them in and I forgot. So please, take a bunch, don't just take one. And get them out to the people you know. They're due end of August. And then we will hopefully have lots and lots of applications. And we, on the September meeting, like we always do, we will look at the submissions and choose our 4 shows for next year.
Do you have a forwardable email?
I just wrote that down. I will send that to everyone
Okay,
too.
great.
Yeah, so you can forward it along.
Uh-huh. And
So-
does the city use Twitter for this kind of thing?
No, but we could. We have a Twitter account, and so we can definitely do that. Yeah, we don't have a ton of followers, but if you do, then you can retweet.
Right, it just seems that for calls for proposals, Twitter seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, Twitter is good for that.
So please,
You guys are
please.
so hip.
I'm not hip, so I don't do that. But please, please, talk to people, talk to who you know, tell everybody you know. I'm sure we don't have any applications yet.
None
Or-
yet,
not
none yet. And Susan, I was going to also mention that we don't do group shows. That's the
Yes,
only.
that's very important.
Okay.
Single-person shows. And the art has to be, we don't do sculpture because we have no way of controlling it. So it is art that goes against the wall.
Can it be video?
No. We have, that was a bad answer. I would have to think it through. I don't know how we would do that, but
We may have, I mean, if it was one video, we have a large TV screen that could be portable.
Are the walls
Put
white?
away.
Could you project on those walls?
oh,
I don't know.
now I'm getting
Maybe.
nervous.
Maybe. We can, it's
Let's-
not a no, it's a maybe.
It's a maybe.
Yeah.
So sorry I came up with a no so quickly, but my concern is always the safety of our objects. That's the deal. So we always insist that people use our security stuff, and our security stuff is flat, and the work needs to go flat against the wall. Because it's an open space,
Right.
it's a shared space, and we don't have a guard. So
Right, so like a video with headphones would be a vandalism problem.
vandalism problem for sure. So that's where we run into trouble and video equipment disappearing. I mean, I would really need to think it through and talk to Eva a lot more about it. But it's certainly a thought. But we're very clear, we have no other way to protect the artwork, because it is such an open space for a tremendous amount of hours, and there's nobody there. So
All
that's
right.
our limits. So that's it.
New business? There's no new business. Okay. Future agenda items. This is what Susan had asked. How do you get things on the agenda? You now ask Eva to put things on the agenda.
Well, I will have something from the Film Fest, I assume. I guess I ought to also, I'll come up with a schedule for the haiku for the fall, because I have to think about that. Yeah.
Will we have this sculpture at the next meeting? Okay. Anything else? Anybody else?
I wanted to ask how we might talk about an NEA Our Town grant, which has an August deadline. And this gets back to the question of placemaking. And I think that there's an opportunity for, and here I want to make sure that that there's no conflict of interest with my bulb stuff versus serving on the committee. So tell me what's the proper way to go about this. But I think that the bulb is one place where there could be really good opportunities for placemaking grants. And in particular, because there's this one deadline coming up, I'm wondering whether it would be good next time to discuss what kind of projects in Albany might be suited to that kind of grant. And that might be the start of a discussion about how the master plan relates to and either supports or doesn't support this kind of grant application. I also would love to update folks on what's happening at the bulb. I don't remember how long ago it was that I presented to you all, but we've presented 20 events so far. And we had a festival in the last couple weeks. I don't know if you all heard about it, speaking of, how getting the word out. But we had Shakespeare and tap dancing and Mexican music and dance out there.
I know about the Mexican music at dance because I saw it on my friend's Facebook.
Yeah, and so that's how people see it. But I'm wondering, would that be appropriate for me to give that kind of update and share?
Oh, absolutely. That would definitely be appropriate. And as far as the grant application goes, I can't remember how the NEA grant works, but I know I've applied for some of those grants before and been granted them on the nonprofit side. I know that we typically have had to go to the city if it is a required public-private partnership and ask the city if they're willing to participate in it, and usually we've done that through staff. I don't think we have had to go to advisory boards or to arts commissions and say, or city council and say, do you approve of this? But I think there is some sort of city approval that has to, the staff knows, I guess, how the city decides what grants they're going to apply to. Mm-hmm. I think the only issue would be if you were involved with the nonprofit that wanted to apply with the city for a grant. I would imagine you would, if we did have to consider whether we would recommend participating in it, you'd probably have to recuse yourself from that conversation. But talking about it with the committee seems clearly like something you could do. It would only be if, I think, the way I would think of it, and Eva can look into this and correct me, but I would think the conflict would come if we were being asked to say yay or nay, should we apply, are we recommending that we apply for that grant? I wouldn't think that you could vote on that if you were involved in applying for the grant.
Right, yeah.
I would think that would be the limitation, but.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And just also, I'd like to talk about next time I'm working, and again, this is something that I'm working on, but it's a dance festival at the Bulb for September. And I'll be finding out at the beginning of June whether we got a Zellerbach Community Arts grant for that. And even if we didn't get the grant, I'm hoping to move forward in some way with that. But they're also, it would be nice to have some kind of partnership with the city and support from staff if that's available, along the lines of, the Irish dance or whatever. We had a really successful Friends of Albany Park project day out at the Bulb, and to be able to do that kind of partnership in the arts would be fantastic. And so I'd love to present on that next week, if that would be all right.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. And Eva, actually, could you give a staff update at the next meeting on this question of what kind of research, if any, the city has done into how Albany residents get information about events? I feel like a lot of what we're asked to do here is talk up events and promote events, and that is what you do to promote the arts, is you promote people getting out there to see the arts. So I would be really interested in the answer to that question, whether it's been done and what it would take to do it, but especially whether it's been done, what kind of market research there is or whatever. Thanks. Anything else?
And just so I have it, Susan, you had mentioned the NEA grant application and general kind of bulb updates as well? Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure I had everything. Okay.
And the September Dance Festival.
And Eva, in line with that, are you in a position to find out where the city and the county are in their discussion of their redesign and their plans for the bowl?
I can find out that information. I'm not sure offhand, but yeah. Jeff Bond has been the main contact.
The county too, about?
The Regional Park District? Yeah, I mean, I can tell you where that is. I've been following that pretty closely, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Let's have that then next month. That'll be great. Anything else? Anything else for the agenda? Motion, anybody want to move to adjourn this meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
In favor? Do we vote? No, we're adjourned. Thanks. Not that up on my Rogers Rule of Orders, obviously.